In the spring of 2015, the church that we had been leading for 5 years and been in ministry in for 15 years began to unravel. We were losing friends and we were separating and going different ways. We were out of steam and we were discouraged. We even asked ourselves the question, should we be doing this? I asked myself the question, am I called to do this? We believed God wanted us to start over and to build something that was different. And we were facing an impossible situation. We had a $750,000 mortgage to make payments on, a building that needed tons of work, repairs, and additions. We weren't being paid and not enough income to support any of that. We had 89 days till we were insolvent and would default on our mortgage. About 80 of our friends who had faith to continue relaunched what became Christ Church as you see it today. That 90-day mark came and the church had grown and the support was there. I came back on staff full time. We never missed a mortgage payment and we began to grow. So in 2015, at our first service, we had 79 humans. And by the end of 2016, we had reached 125 people. And then by the end of 2017, we were seeing 225 people and filling up the service that we were having. We added a second service and immediately grew to 350, and those are very exciting things. And by the end of 2019, we were at 430 people. We closed 2020 in the fourth quarter, averaging just under 600 in attendance in 2 services. And as we've led with open hands and created an environment where people can connect with God that way, we've seen them put their faith in Jesus and be baptized and start to grow in their faith. We've seen people who are followers of Jesus come into new spiritual gifts and begin to start to operate in what God had called them to thrive in ministry. We've seen Kids in Motion come alive with all sorts of volunteers serving our kids week in and week out. 31% of our church is kids under 12. And there's a whole team of people that are serving with excellence to give them an experience of what God's really like. We've seen that in small people starting small groups in their homes. We've seen that in women's ministry and men's ministry, people being honest about who they are and where they're at and connecting with God in ways that are transforming their lives, transforming their relationships, marriages, families. And in that environment, we've seen people want to invite their friends.
And I think that that's been the most beautiful thing, is that people are allowed here to be who they are right now, whether you've been walking with the Lord for a year or 50 years, that your process of maturing is of the Lord. Right. It's His work. Right. It's not our work, it's His work. Right. God's been faithful to build His church like we believed from the beginning. This is not about us, this is about Him. He has people that He wants to reach in this community. He has people that He wants to save, that He wants to set free, that He wants to give His life-giving spirit to. And I feel like that's what He's doing. He's growing His church, and we have to make more room for people that don't yet know the living, loving Savior that we worship.
And so as we look to the future, we need space to be able to expand to, and we need to have a church campus that we can multiply from for the next decade to 2 decades as Christ Church grows to not only be a healthy, vibrant local church, but also a church planting church. And so if we just take our lowest trajectory of growth, the smallest growth year we have is 22%, and we project that 2 years in the future at the end of this campaign, we could be averaging over 800 people, and we can't sustain that. So the goal of the building is to have a adult sanctuary that's twice as big as what we have now, to create really wide open lobby space where there's lots more room to connect, no more jam up in the lobby. We want to have adequate bathrooms and storage and flex space, and we want to have it built right on site. The cool part is we've already built the parking. We have all the parking we need to service this building. We've already paid for that, and we have that. We're ready to roll. And so the site work is done. We're right there where we can put this facility and it can connect kind of seamlessly to what we have now. And then we're able to transform the current facility into space entirely dedicated to our children. We want to create an environment where they are connecting with God in a fun, safe, and loving way each and every single week. That's a huge priority to us. We were a part of the church that built this building. It's 120 people. It was even before we were in vocational ministry. I remember we were, the two of us both working full time and made less than $3,000 a month. We were tithing $300 a month. And the ask was, $60 per adult or $120 per couple. And that was like almost a 50% increase in our giving, which we didn't have hardly anything. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't go on vacation. We didn't have any fun stuff. But God put it in our heart to be a part of that. And so we were part of a small church that did something miraculous. And that's building, here it is. And that was one of the main things that God used in the growth of Christ Church 5 years ago, was the fact that we had a building.
I can remember being 17, little young Tiffany, and church was the place where I encountered the Spirit of God.
Right.
And it was the thing that led me to my knees to say, Jesus, take my life, do what you want with it. I'm all yours. And church, the presence of God that's felt in this building with God's people is tangible. And so it's really exciting to be able to now be busting out of the seams, like you always say, of this building that we invested in personally and lots of other people invested in. To have this here and now to be moving forward and going, okay, God, what do you want to do with this next stage? So one of the things that I loved 5.5 years ago was you said, God is my boss. Like in private, you said, okay, God, you're my boss. If you want this thing to work out, then you will provide what we need to continue in ministry. He's faithful to provide what you need. And so I think, again, both of us and the whole church, we can offer God what we can with open hands and say, God, you do what is best for Christ Church of Port Orange. You do what is best for this community. And I feel like our job is to ask. You have not because you ask not. That's what God says. And so I feel like this campaign, this One Life, is a big ask. It's a lot of money that we have to raise in order to reach more people in our community and to create the kind of ministry that we're trying to have here at Christ Church.
It's really about doing what you can, working with what you have, and starting where you're at. If you do those simple things, that's going to be the way to engage. And that's going to be different for everyone. And as long as we're faithful, God can use that to do amazing things. One life at a time, we want to see that transformation happen. We believe that's where we're going to transform not just a church, but a community, a city, a county, and the world. I mean, this is the picture of the mission of Jesus. So this is what we're partnering in. And we want to build your faith to see it. We want to challenge you in your spiritual formation to participate and to sacrifice and to give generously and to be a part, to get behind this and to have ownership in it. We're not just trying to build a fancy building or a better place for us to gather or a place that we like better. We are making room for people to connect with God in a life-giving way that transforms their life, their families, their workplaces, and the world. The church will be the place where people encounter God in a way that changes everything. I'm Jesse Jarvis.
I'm Tiffany Jarvis.
And this
is our One Life.